back to aRDists Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah. So it's been a little bit more of a break than I had intended, but here we are. I decided to move my location around. I've been spending a lot of time kind of rethinking what I want the podcast to look like, especially going into the next year. This first year was just, feeling it out, seeing what I think about it. And upon reflecting, I feel like I was setting myself up for failure in a way because I was creating this idea in my head of what I wanted my podcast to look like. And what I wanted at the time was hour-long podcast episodes because I like listening to podcasts for an hour. I have something that I can just put on and I have something for background noise or to, listen to while I, cook something or work on something. But for myself, trying to talk for an hour is a struggle. So I decided that going into the next year, I want to do more of a casual sort of podcast. So if you're just listening to this, you obviously can't see the visual change, but rather than sitting down here in my studio in my chair and kind of having more of a, structured conversation about a specific topic and having segments, I tried that. Don't love it. Doesn't feel natural. And so I wanted to do something more short form. So I'm looking at maybe 10 to 15 minute episodes. So short little, nuggets. Sometimes you only have, 10 to 15 minutes to, spend listening to something. So, son of a bitch, the furnace just kicked on. Let me text my husband to see if he can turn that off so I don't have to move. So anyway, I want to make these episodes shorter, 10 to 15 minutes. I want to lower the bar for me and aim more for consistency. So doing these, my plan is weekly, but we'll see how it goes. I was doing monthly and that felt like a struggle, but I knew that I didn't have it built into my schedule very well. And, I wasn't enjoying it because I was putting so much pressure on myself to make it make it something that I just couldn't handle at the time. So I'm going to start, I've been reflecting, I'm going to start over, start from scratch. We're going to do, shorter episodes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And I would appreciate, any feedback. If you like shorter episodes, that's awesome. If you prefer longer episodes, maybe I can throw in some longer ones here and there. But we're going to start with some 10 to 15 minute episodes. So I thought today, I'm recording this a few days before Christmas, but it's coming out on Christmas Day because I wanted to talk a little bit about getting back into crafting and making things. And so Merry Christmas if you're watching this on Christmas, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, Happy Monday or whenever it is you're watching this. So yeah, this year I decided I wanted to make gifts. It would be really nice to do an advent calendar or even something like that. But I thought it would be fun to make these little bags that are basically just in case bags. So my Aunt Kathy, she always has her just in case bag, but it's as far as I remember, a big bag filled with spare clothes, all sorts of things for just in case moments. But I wanted just these little sacks that just have little miscellaneous things. So I'll go through it and I'll also show video footage of the ones that I had made for everyone. So just little things that you might need while you're out, like chapstick, Band-Aids, a little sewing kit, what else? Tea, candy, toothpicks. So just a bunch of little things. And this is one that was my test one. So I'm going to use this as my own just in case bag. I just wanted it to be small so people can just throw it in their car on their way out or, keep it in their car or, whatever. And then on the bottom, I embroidered just in case. So yeah, just a fun little detail to add to it. And then once I got all of the things that I was going to put into it, I decided that, I don't know if I have everything in here, but oh yeah, that's the other thing. There's a notepad, some little pencils for writing, these little compressed towelettes. So you just add water to them and then it expands into a little cloth that you can use for stuff or washing your hands or whatever you need it for. So yeah, once I got all of these things, I was like, it's just like, I don't want to just loose in there. So I decided to make more work for myself, and I made little mini bags. So I kind of divvied things up, like put the tea bags in one, and then yeah, there were a couple things like the Band-Aids and the sewing kit. Those I just left loose because they were a little bit on the big side, but then all the little doodads I put in these little pouches. So each of these has 3 mini bags. But it was, the reason I bring this up is because it was really enjoyable for me to get back into kind of manufacturing something. So my first job, I worked at a studio where I helped make like designer chef coats. And so a lot of it was I did some of the like prep work. So I did, you know, spreading the fabric, cutting out the patterns, stacking everything up, getting it organized with like the cut ticket and the sewing ticket, whatever, and then doing like the embroidery. And so at the end of the day, I had like this tangible amount of like stuff that I feel like I achieved. And then another job I had, I worked in an embroidery studio where I was just like hooping garments all day. And so it was, again, it was a thing where I could tangibly see how much work I got done. And a lot of the work I do now isn't like a physical thing that I do with my hands other than like typing or using a mouse. And so making these things was really enjoyable. And so, you know, when I think about dietitians and trying to find like a creative outlet, like it doesn't always necessarily have to be blending dietetics with your creative outlet. It can just be like either a hobby or, you know, making Christmas gifts or, you know, doing something with your hands that's just for the sake of doing it, and doing that sort of practice to kind of give yourself space to be creative, to get some of that work-life balance, and doing it without the pressure of like for a business. So I have been thinking like, oh, it'd be nice to get back into doing some sort of craft or creative project that I can then sell. But there's all of the kind of business stress that goes into keeping up with like demand, researching what's going to be, you know, popular, making custom things if people want something customized. And then it kind of sucks all of the creative fun out of it. And so I'm like, I don't necessarily want to start thinking of it from a business point of like perspective. I'd rather think of it as, you know, like doing things like making gifts, or so something that I tried implementing this past year with my shop is like making bookmarks, and then I'll just give them to people who order like stickers or something. Because when I mail out stickers, it just feels like an envelope with a sticker in it, and it feels weird. So I understand that's what people are ordering, but it's, you know, it would be a nice like little addition to throw bookmarks in there. So yeah, anyway, to kind of summarize what the hell I'm talking about, yeah, I just enjoyed sewing things and making things with my hands. And so if you're like kind of in the same boat where you used to be crafty or creative or make things, you know, like crocheting, sewing, drawing, painting, woodworking, whatever, like making ceramics or beads or Legos, like whatever that may be, like try to make time for it this year. Like it's really satisfying for me personally. Everybody's different, so, you know, do what works for you. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because it was really fun to kind of like creatively problem solve. Like, okay, I want to make, so this is also what I was thinking about. I'm like, I want to make a bag that can hold a bunch of little things. What are some things that people would need just in case? So, you know, troubleshooting that, and then also wanting the bag to fit for mailing purposes in these small flat rate boxes since they're going all over the place, and I wanted to be like frugal about this because everything is hella expensive right now. So I enjoyed the creative problem solving of that, and then also just creatively problem solving, like how do I want to, you know, I had to make a pattern for this. I know it's simple, it's just like a circle and a rectangle, but you know, still making a pattern for that so everything stitches together nicely. And then the order to do things in. So I have a serger, so I serged the edges. I don't know, it was just fun to do. And so I also made like these little sewing kits. So I made the envelopes. I made myself a little template. It just folds up on itself. Obviously, if you're listening to this, I encourage you to watch the, the YouTube version. but it's like a little 2" by 3" envelope that just has a flap and then a little like cutout, like a little slit here so it can close. And then I cut a piece of fabric and glued it to the envelope so that way it matches the bag that it goes to. And then on the inside, I, again, just made this little thing that fits inside the envelope out of cardstock. I put a little origami paper over the top to kind of make it look neat and come together. And then on the inside, this isn't a finished one, but I put a needle, a safety pin, and then put some notches along here, and then put a red thread, white thread, blue thread, black thread. Close that up, and you got a little, cute little sewing kit. I don't know. And that is the just in case bag. So yeah. So that's what I did for Christmas gifts. And then I also used the same envelopes to make little seed packets. So I just used Canva graphics and made this little like label in Canva with the name of the flower. So this year I grew some skyscraper sunflowers, and I put some of the instructions on there that I had from my seed packet, the original seed packet, and then I just loaded it up with some seeds from my flowers from this year, and I'm sending that to a few people as well, so that way they can also grow what I grew. So I did sunflowers, Kentucky Wonder pole beans, some mammoth dill, and some mammoth Russian sunflowers. And then I also have some marigolds. I have a ton of marigolds. But I don't have one of those packets made right now. So yeah, it was also really fun, again, to just manufacture a bunch of seed packets, and I'll make a few extra for myself, so that way next year I have my seeds all organized in these neat little envelopes. It is time consuming, but again, I like doing something with my hands, and it's something that I can do in the evenings. I can fit 2 in cardstock, like on one sheet of cardstock. And then when I do that, I have these shapes left over. And so I've been cutting out, let me see if this is the right. I've been cutting out 1 and then 2 little bookmarks. And then because I have so many, I wanted to make it a little bit thicker. I've been gluing 2 sheets together, and then I'm working on coloring them. Again, just a passive thing to do with my hands. And I can throw them into sticker orders. And yeah, it's just another little thing that I can do without the pressure of like, okay, I need these to be perfect. It's like, it's just going to be a freebie that I just throw in my orders, and it's more for me, and it gives people a little bit of a extra doodad when they buy. And I always like that when you get little freebies that you weren't expecting. So if you order a sticker, now you're going to expect it, but yeah. So that's what I've been up to. I did have some notes for this episode, so let me just make sure I've like gone over everything that I wanted to. Oh yeah, so another thing that has changed, this might be a little bit of a longer episode than what I plan to do moving forward, but just to kind of catch you up. So I started a new job back in September, and it's challenging, sometimes rewarding, sometimes frustrating, and I have mixed feelings about it in general, but I'm basically doing virtual nutrition counseling, so it's kind of nice to actually stretch my dietitian muscles and counsel people. It's been a mixed bag of feelings, but overall I think it'll be good to have that experience. And yeah, so I've been busy with that, and then also we've had a lot of cat stuff going on. Obviously, I've mentioned in past episodes, our cat Dwight continues to periodically shit in the sink. We brought in a stray female, I don't know when, like months and months ago. I don't remember when exactly that was. But she doesn't get along with one of our cats, and so that's been challenging, kind of like figuring out how to get them to coexist, or if we need to find her a new home. So we're still working on that. And then recently we finally brought in another stray that we've been working to befriend for over a year. It took about a year to finally get to a point where he'll let us pet him, and very standoffish to people, very like shaky if you touch him or like hold him. He wasn't fixed, no microchip. And again, it took us a year just to get to the point where we could kind of pet him. Still not friendly, still hisses and stuff, but we did finally bring him in, and he's recovering from a little snip, and still would love. I keep trying to bribe my husband into like, or like dropping hints like, hey, how would you feel about like running a cat cafe one day? Because I just want to collect all the strays. I just think that would be a really fun like future job or retirement career or something, just to have like a cat cafe where I can just hoard cats, but in a healthy way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I, again, will plan to do short episodes going into the new year. I want to work on a project while I talk to you, and I'll either like talk through the thing that I'm working on, or, you know, do like a show and tell. And just talk about creative things, and working that into either business activities or just as a hobby. And I'm going to experiment with the shorter episodes of like 10 to 15 minutes, and let me know what you think, if that's a format that you prefer. If you're like, yeah, definitely short episodes, I can't watch more than that. I think any kind of feedback about how this is, any sort of feedback you have is like helpful. So let me know what you want to see. I also am going to kind of treat this like I'm just creating for me, and I'm going to put it out there. And if it connects with people, awesome. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I'm doing this for me because I need a creative outlet. And I also want to share it and share what I'm doing, because I feel like there's a need for a community in this sort of space, especially with science heavy. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. We need a creative outlet in this field. So that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next year. Bye.